So thank you very much for joining us. My name is Grace Nzula, and I'm excited to be here. I am a HR consultant with Atara Solutions, and Atara Solutions is a HR consulting and training company. We offer what we call HR consultancy. If you're looking to do salary surveys, if you're looking to do job evaluations, review your policies, if you're also looking to upgrade your people, then you need to get in touch with us. And then we also offer training or learning and development, which includes team building. So if you're looking for team building for your organization, then Atara Solutions will be able to support you on that. If you're looking for coaching as well for those employees who are stuck, then you can get in touch with us and we can offer you coaching services. We offer recruitment and selection as well. And on top of that, we run this webinar series called Get It Right with Atara Solutions. And on Get It Right with Atara Solutions, we normally have a sign language interpreter. Unfortunately, because of unavoidable circumstances, she's not able to be with us tonight. Nonetheless, we shall continue and hopefully she will join us next week. So tonight, I am excited about the topic we are having, and I'm going to introduce my co-host, who is also our speaker tonight. But before that, allow me to give a shout out to our partners so that then we get to recognize the amazing job that they do and the support they give us in making sure that this is happening. We have Nile Front Cottages. Nile Front Cottages, for those in Uganda, you need to go to Jinja and visit Nile Front Cottages. It is an amazing space to be in. It is a very beautiful cottage. It is near where River Nile meets Lake Victoria. And it is also run by one of our HR professionals. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And while at Jinja, please visit Skia Restaurant, which is a restaurant in town that only employs, the people in service are those with hearing impairment. It is such an amazing experience. Please visit them. And get to have an experience of a lifetime. We also have Profiles International. Profiles International are the people who offer psychometric assessments. So if you're looking to submit a psychometric assessment, then you need to get in touch with Profiles International. We have K-Square HR Services. K-Square HR Services are our partners in Kigali, Rwanda. If you're looking for HR consulting services, if you're looking for trainings in Rwanda, if you're looking for support in Rwanda, Kigali, then K-Square HR Services are the best people to go for. We have Steadfast Quality Solutions. Steadfast Quality Solutions are our partner in Uganda. This is run by my very good friend, Herbert Zake. Herbert Zake is a Gallup certified strengths coach. If you're looking for a coach, he has coached over 500 executives and he's done an amazing job. And he runs a Steadfast Quality Solutions. If you're also looking for board evaluations, board assessments, or board recruitment and board support, then Steadfast Quality Solutions will be your people. We also have AR Insurance for all your insurance needs. If you're looking for medical insurance, if you're looking for WIBA insurance, if you're looking for car insurance, then AR Insurance will be able to give you that to you. And then we have Hotel Sapphire. Hotel Sapphire is a hotel located in Mombasa. It is right in the middle of city center in Mombasa. It is such a beautiful place. They have an amazing conference facilities. It is in a serene place, and they have a beautiful, amazing, sumptuous, delicious food. Hotel Sapphire in Mombasa. If you're in Mombasa and looking for a place for conferences, or you're looking for a place to just chill for the evening, on Fridays they have an amazing band. So please visit Hotel Sapphire. We have Tufaha Resort. Tufaha Resort is our partner in Nanyuki. If you're looking for serenity, if you're looking for an experience, if you're looking for a holiday in a place that you will enjoy, then you need to visit Tufaha Resort in Nanyuki. We were there for our road trip for the year 2025. And my God, didn't we have fun? That was a week ago, and we are still recovering and hoping that we will not wake up from the dream of such an amazing place to be. And then if you're looking to study carpentry, if you want to learn woodworking, or you know somebody who has passion for woodworking and they wish to take it as a course, then Panessa Training Institute will be able to do that. And then Port Saco, if you're looking for a Saco to join, then you need to join Port Saco for all your Saco needs. And finally, we have Sotet Kinyumbani. Sotet Kinyumbani is a beautiful restaurant in Nanyuki. Richard had their food the other day, and I am telling you, my entire team is still singing the lunch they had at Sotet Kinyumbani. It is so beautiful. They serve natural African food. This is located in Nanyuki, as on your way to Mount Kenya Safari Club. It is along that route, and they have very, very good food. If you happen to be passing through Nanyuki, living in Nanyuki, and you have not visited Sotet Kinyumbani, it's time to visit.
Sotet Kinyumbani, it is in Nanyuki. Sotet Kinyumbani, it has traditional, amazing food that if you are a great believer in tasty food, Sotet Kinyumbani in Nanyuki is the place to go once you are in Nanyuki town. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our guest speaker today, and she's going to tell us how to transform visions into reality. How do we strategize for our business so that we are able to achieve those goals that we have set? We have none other than Lois Macharia W. Lois is a skilled professional who is dedicated in assisting business founders navigate the challenging sector of entrepreneurship to maximize their potential. She's an entrepreneur, a project manager professional, a business strategist, and a certified coach. Currently working with Waylard International as a lead strategy consultant. As a lead consultant with years of hands-on experience, she greatly understands the challenges of building and sustaining a thriving business. Drawing on a wealth of vast industry knowledge, she is committed to delivering transformative, meaningful outcomes that truly make a difference for our client. Lois has worked extensively with startups and growth stage entrepreneurs, conducting hands-on workshops, webinars, and training sessions with organizations such as Strathmore University, KEPSA, Pollinate Impact, Equity Group Foundation, KCB Business Club, and more. Beyond group engagements, she has collaborated directly with entrepreneurs in different regions and sectors to refine their business models, steer them through key strategic decision-making processes to develop impactful strategies, enhance operational efficiency, and access finance. Her approach is one that delivers practical insights and applications that give them tools they need to succeed in today's competitive landscape. While away from work, she is indulging in her passion to keep learning through documentaries or is somewhere outdoors enjoying quality time with family and friends. She is devoted to supporting the growth of SMEs in Africa and believes that entrepreneurship and innovation play a significant role in accelerating social progress. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Lois using the best emojis or stickers that you have. Lois, it is your floor as we celebrate you to come and unpack some of these secrets of how you can be able to move from vision to the reality of making business win. Welcome, Lois.
All right, thank you for that introduction. I'm very, very happy to be here, I have to say, and very pleased to see quite a number of people ready to learn, ready to network, to share whatever they have learned over the years. So, as you have said, yes, my name is Lois, and I work for Wild International. A consulting firm, specifically working with owner managers. An owner manager is someone who has started a business but is still running the everyday operations of the business. And that is the kind of client I work with. So, not to assume that I'm audible, Richie, please confirm that you can hear me loud and clear.
You are loud and clear. You can proceed.
Perfect. Great. So I'm particularly always excited about this topic. Reason being, I am such a creative when it comes to this space. So any time or any conversations along these lines is definitely somewhere that I want to be. So thank you very much, Atara, for indulging me. Great. So our topic today, or rather, what was shared to me, and I said, this is amazing. I believe that we should definitely continue speaking about it, is from vision to victory, with the specific sub to create a winning business strategy. I am sharing my screen, so I hope you all can see it so that you're able to follow within this conversation. Yes, we can all see. Okay, perfect. So this is the conversation we're going to have: vision to victory, creating a winning business strategy. And such a conversation can be quite lengthy. Some of our clients, we take up to sometimes even 2 days or 3 days with some clients just discussing or developing a winning business strategy. But for today, I'll just focus on the important nuggets that you need to follow through, and you're able to keep tabs with what it is that you're doing. So just a few steps here and there. Of course, we're going to start by just defining what strategy is, because strategy is quite an ambiguous word. Perfect. So as I was saying, strategy is quite a big word. It's thrown here everywhere, right? But it's quite ambiguous. And so I'd like for us to just define what strategy is so that we're all clear and we are using the same definition, because depending on the definition, everyone can create whatever it is that they will create and call it strategy. And of course, just give you a few steps here and there, not quite many, just about 4 steps that you need to look into. The details of it is definitely with depth, but today we'll just look at the major things that you need to look at in every step. As well, share a few examples here and there that are going to help us, or just have a better understanding of the different concepts. So let's start with a few quotes here. We're saying a vision without a strategy remains an illusion. Someone by the name Lee Baldwin said, a vision without a strategy remains an illusion. So we can all translate that the way we're going to translate, but the basic meaning is you need a strategy to bring to life whatever it is that is on your mind, whatever it is that your mind has formed, whatever it is that it has created. You need now to sit down and say, then what is the best way to approach it? Lest we have situations where even in business, the people that I interact with, maybe they got into business by chance, but on getting there at some point, then they feel stuck because there was no strategy. It was yes by luck, but now the business cannot grow to where their mind is taking them, or whatever their mind is conceiving. So I think Lee Baldwin with this statement was quite on point. And then just the second thing that perhaps I'd like for it to guide us is the hope is not a strategy. Not to say that hope is not great. Hope, faith is what carries us to be able to action some of these things. But we cannot just be wishful and not find a way to execute. So hope in itself is not a strategy. It can work up to a certain point, and it does help in carrying us in the execution of the strategy, but it cannot be the main thing. So great. Let's define strategy. What is strategy? As you can see, we are saying it's a guide of the current state of the business to its desired future state. Now, what strategy answers is where in the playing field do we want to win and how are we going to win it. So it's about clarity, it's about focus, it's about action. It is your what and why. Yeah. So when you talk about where in the playing field you want to answer, let's use an example of Twiga Foods, something that we have seen in our local market right now. So an example of then how they define their strategy, because whatever they find here, a leading farm to market platform, to farm to market platform, leveraging technology to streamline supply chain. That is a strategy statement that did guide Twiga Foods for the time that it did exist, or at the point of beginning. And the question here, or rather the playing field that they chose, was in agribusiness. Yeah. So that is the sector they chose, but the space that they chose to win at is on technology. So they said in agribusiness as a sector, there's so much we could do, but where do we want to play within this? So they said, okay, so we want to be at the supplying stage, and we also want to bring tech into this. So at the supply chains, the only way we can win our how is with technology. So its strategy is more about choosing a particular area that you want to win in a sector. So you don't want to be everywhere. Yeah. Being everywhere will have you missing opportunities or not growing as far as you think the business would grow. So immediately at the very beginning, at the early stages of the business, of course, you definitely want to choose the space that you want to be. So in this case, it is in the supply chains. In the case of Twiga Foods, that is, it is within the supply chains. And the how to win that is with technology. So a lot of the times people confuse strategy with a plan. This is something that I've seen going quite often, where you find people see it, create something for the year and perhaps call it a strategy. But a strategy and a plan, those are two different things. Let's see what a plan is. It's a detailed, actionable set of steps to execute the strategy, translating it into measurable actions with timelines, resources, and milestones. So a plan answers how and when, but a strategy answers what and why. Yeah. So the how and when now represents the nitty-gritties of the everyday operations. But the overall strategy talks about where in the playing field you want to be and how you will win it. Okay. So this is the reason why you'd find we perhaps are in the same sector, but we are not doing the same business. Perhaps we're not even competitors. Yeah, because our strategies are very, very different. And that's why you see, even after some years, a company can, redo its own strategy, the entire strategy, and decide to focus on a different market. So let me go in further and just give more understanding to what now our strategy is, seeing that we understand the difference of strategy and a plan. So let me pause there and give me a thumbs up if you would say that for sure you have understood the difference between a strategy and a plan. Give me a thumbs up so that I know we are together. Yes. Oh, great. Thank you. All right, so let's go to step one. And I must say, the most important step. Yeah, all the rest are very important as well, but this is the most important step when creating a winning strategy because it guides everything else. It guides all the decisions that come after. So understanding your why is just having clarity of the problem you're solving. For example, there are people who are starting maybe the business and they just want to understand, or are just young in the business and they are figuring out the reason for your existence. There are others who are focusing, who want to just have a current focus area. And I will give an example for this to make sure that we do understand this, because I have met a lot of entrepreneurs out here who believe have understood this, but on sitting down, we realize there isn't much clarity in it. And so the challenge when it comes to this, we get to see this when now they're developing the solutions or they're addressing the needs that they say that they're addressing in their why. Yeah, because you find the solutions that they're offering or how they're solving this problem does not correlate to their understanding of why. So to give an example, okay, there we are. So say maybe for a reason for your existence, let's look at an example of a restaurant. You could have two restaurants, but even they might even be neighboring each other, but their strategy is totally different or their focus area is totally different. Perhaps restaurant one is focusing on feeding families with organic meals. And that is their why. Yeah. That us as our why, we just want to feed families with organic meals. And then restaurant B could be saying, for us, our why is to create memorable experiences. Yeah. So you do realize that the strategies for these two restaurants are very, very different because their why is totally different. The why for these ones, they're focusing on organic meals, the others are focusing on creating experiences. So what kind of decisions will affect, such companies? Restaurant B, on creating memorable experiences, they'll think about the music, they'll think about activities, they'll probably also think about ambience and all that. That is part of the deal. So even in designing the restaurant, in the kind of activities that they put up in the restaurant, they are very categorized to that. And perhaps even their strategies would be more geared towards, and the advertisement would be more geared towards bonding. Yeah. But on the other hand, a restaurant that is focusing on organic meals, perhaps the ambience is not really what they are going for, but they will be more focused on the farm life and how we are how we are planting our things, how we are proving, because when it comes to organic meals, there's a lot of distrust. So how are we talking about our processes in bringing new organic ingredients, using organic ingredients? So really, these two companies will not operate in a similar way. These are for restaurants, but let me bring it closer. Perhaps we have HRs in the building, or rather online. Yeah. So look at this table. So we have the HR sector in Kenya. You have Farm A, Farm B, and Farm C. Yeah. You might think that these guys are perhaps on the same level, but their why is what will differentiate all these people. And that's why we are saying this is important, because Farm A could be focusing on connecting Kenyan talent with life-changing opportunities. So these guys are focusing on onboarding people, focusing on, getting such opportunities for these people. So their engagement with the people will be heavier, right? Will be deeper. And then we have Farm B, that's their why is to transform or empower SMEs, yeah, through people's strategy or something like that. So then how they communicate, how they position themselves in their market, how they develop the different strategies in their market will be totally different from the guys who are connecting Kenyan talent. Of course, perhaps there are services that might be similar, but the focus areas, their focus area might be different in even in form of the partnership they're making, similar to Farm C, which perhaps it's simplifying HR processes. Simplifying HR processes, then perhaps for these guys, they'll be focusing more on technology. Yeah, so they're not really more towards the empower the SMEs, transform the SMEs' life, but for them it would be more of tech, yeah, and how they can bring this in the market. So with your understanding of why, then you're able to come here and ask yourself, in step 2, now understand your target, because you've understood your why is to simplify processes. Then you'd ask yourself, who are these people who need these processes simplified, right? If you are connecting Kenyan talent to to life-changing opportunities, who is the Kenyan talent you're targeting? Are you targeting the young people from uni? Are you targeting C-suits? If it's for the restaurant, you're talking about organic meals. Who is very concerned about organic meals? If, for instance, today, I'm even struggling to make my 100 shillings per day, is this something that I'd really want to consider, even though you bring me, and tell me it's very good for my health, but it is expensive, it's not for me, then there's nothing you're telling me, right? So you want to understand your why, because then it leads you to asking yourself, who is the right target market? And the thing with this step 2, it is the most detailed step compared to all the rest, really. This is the most detailed step. This is where you want to spend majority of your time in, because you see, you have to answer 4 questions or 4 key things. You want to describe your niche. And if you notice, I'll say describe an adjective, because you just don't want to assume you know your niche. You want to describe who they are. You want to describe their characteristics. You want to describe how they move. You want to describe what is important to them. You want to describe what do they term as value. So you need to write this down if possible. I had a client who, with this, what happened was, for them to understand better, they gave their target market names, yeah, that they could refer them to. So they know when they're speaking about a certain product, they're giving, perhaps, say, for example, they named one Karen. So they know this is the premium client. This is someone who is willing to spend more, someone who has explored. So you need to have that kind of description at this point, because then the rest will be easier, because you'll understand their constraints. And the thing with understanding constraints is, this is what will help you define the value you're offering your client. You don't want to be, in creating a winning strategy, you don't want to be just another business out there. You want to understand the constraints of the client and say, if this client may be, and that is why we saw the rise of things like Glovo, Uber Eats, and all that, because the constraint was, I have money to spend, but I just don't have the time to be there, or I don't have the energy to be there, but I have the money. So in just understanding that you can do an online delivery, there is where now your value you'll structure your value around. And then in this, you also want to understand the direct and indirect alternatives. So I'll give an example of maybe the direct alternative. So direct, I'm thinking of something like bread. Yeah, I'm assuming you have bread, you have Broadways, you have Festive, or yeah, all these things are bread. So this is direct alternatives. Like it's either I'm buying Festive or I'm buying Broadways or any other kind of butter toast, whatever kind of bread. Indirect is, if I'm not buying that bread, what am I doing? Right? I'm probably eating leftovers, right? I'm probably eating domas, washes, and it's an alternative that is there. So if you understand your niche very well, then you get to understand what is the direct and what is the indirect alternative. And the last question that you have to answer in this step is what is the best way to acquire them. Remember, acquisition in strategy is everything. Yeah. If you are not making sales, then everything else, no matter how beautiful it is, everything else that you've built becomes nothing. Yeah, it's good, but it's useless. You have to be making sales. So the last question on the best way to acquire them answers this question. How do I find my client? Who is the best person? What is the best way to reach them? Are they on social media? Is social media the best way to reach them? So that's why I said step 2 is, it has more depth to it, and you might want to spend more time here because it can help you categorize your strategy. Once you understand the target market, then you're able to say, this is how we are going to set up. So it gives direction to the strategy. And then we have the third step, understanding your KDF, and not KDF, the snack, but your key differentiating factor. So the key differentiating factor, if your strategy does not answer how different you are, then you might want to recheck. So the differentiating factor is your edge. It could be, your differentiating factor could be around your product or your service. Your differentiating factor could be around your processes, your values. It could be anything. You need to identify what your differentiating factor is. If you're saying it's customer experience, then embed it in your strategy. How are we saying you embed it? Because you have to think about in terms of operations, in terms of marketing, in terms of just speaking to the client and the customer journey. What is this customer experience that we are talking about? In fact, go ahead and describe what does customer experience mean to this company. Yeah, or what does you can say some others use turnaround time. If turnaround time is what you're calling your differentiating factor, then question all your processes, question all, your communication, your any touch point with the client to ask yourself, is turnaround really our key differentiating factor? A good example of this is how Safaricom has done it, a general example so that we all can just understand how it is, specifically M-Pesa. So M-Pesa, one of the key logos that they use, not logos, sorry, what is it called? Taglines, yeah, was your money anywhere. That was a tagline that they use. So they knew this is our differentiating factor. So when you're talking about you needed to embed it in your strategy, how did they do this? So number one, they made sure that they have so many, a network of agents everywhere, because they remember they're saying our competitive edge is your money anywhere. So they had to make sure that they have lots and lots of agents so that you're able to reach and you're able to get your money. They were able to integrate it into the businesses as well, making it easy even for the business person. And they looked at, so there's the business person, there's the retail person who is an independent M-Pesa user. So you want to embed your key differentiating factor into your strategy, whether it is in marketing, operations, everywhere. Yeah. The challenge that we find in this is that saying this is our competitive edge, for example, in quotes, seems to be like a nice thing to say. But when it comes into reality and the practicality of it into the business is where the most challenging part is. So you would want to be truthful to yourself in step 3. And then the last step, as we finalize, I said this would be so brief so that you can just capture the most important things, is to analyze your assumption. Every strategy has an assumption. And assumptions basically are beliefs you hold about your market, your customers, your operations, even your why. You know, you might assume that if we are going back, let's say for the organic meals, the restaurant, you might just assume that people want organic. You might want to assume that people just want organic meals. You see, it's you want to believe that people value organic meals as much as you do, but that's not the case. So you want to understand or question your assumptions in the different places. So, for example, you want to say customers want lower prices. But is that the case really? Perhaps they're willing to pay more if they see the value to it. You see, you just want to assume that, of course, it's granted every customer wants a lower price, but perhaps to this particular customer, quality is more important to them than the price. So what you want to do under this is you want to list the assumptions. We want to challenge the assumption. And when I say challenge, means you also want to just test. Yeah. And ask yourself, is this really true? Yeah, because as I said, every strategy rests on assumption. The question to answer is, if once you have created your strategy, what must be true for this to work? Yeah, what must be true for this to work? So it means there are different things you need to look at and say, this one can only work if A, B, C, D is true. So you want to challenge that, you want to test that. So allow yourself just time to test the market. Even once you have like a strategy, don't put a stamp on it and close it and say this is what you're going to use. Still put it very close to you and test the different theories and assumptions you might have before you can finalize and say, indeed, this is a long-term strategy or this is a 5-year strategy for my business. Yeah, so very, very important to want to separate. And I'll tell you for sure, this is the hardest step of the strategy because you realize it's not so easy to realize our own bias. It's not so easy to realize our own assumptions. So you might want to have this conversation even with someone else to just check that you know you're not in what people call right now the lulu, right? So it's this is this is a step that needs someone else or a different voice, because even ourselves, even when we are creating, myself as a strategist, even when I'm helping a client create a strategy, I tend to step back and ask myself, do I have any biases? You know, perhaps I've been a user of this product or service. What are my biases? You know, what are my assumptions even before I can even give a comment or something like that? So it's a hard one, but it's definitely not impossible. And so I think with all this, what I can just finalize this conversation, or rather how I can finalize it, is different strategies, different ideas require action. All this is nice. It could be true but useless. It's what I call TBU, true but useless, if execution is not done appropriately. So as I said, a strategy is not a plan. So once you have created your strategy, focus on execution. Immediately create an execution map. Yeah. So don't forget to do that. And a lot of companies, even locally, have tried to adapt different strategies. You've even seen companies who have similar products, just branded differently, on the shelf. Yeah. And it's because they're targeting different markets. I remember one of the key products that I found out very some time back was the Close Up and Pepsodent, being from the same company, but I observed and looked at how they each market and realized, when they focus, when they promote Close Up, it's more of the cosmetic, whitening, freshness, and all that. But with the Pepsodent, it was more of functionality, cavity, things like that. So these are all different strategies by even the same companies. So there's a lot to this. But with this 4 step, I can confidently say you'd have a worthy strategy that you'll have created, and the work will just be on the execution. So with that, if there's a Q&A, Richie, I'll hand it over back to you. So thank you so much for giving me this audience. Yeah.
You're most welcome, Lois. Thank you very much. We can appreciate Lois for those interesting and magnificent points that she has given us. Let us appreciate her for creating that time. Lois, the issue of execution. There is even a quote that says, strategy can be found a dime a dozen, but execution is the king. Why do you think people fall short of execution? Why do people fail in execution? What is it? Psychology? Is it knowledge? It's getting used to failing? Why do people fail when it comes to execution?
Well, there could be a lot of reasons, yeah. Maybe some, once they walk out, they just don't want to do it or see it as a lot of work. Actually had a client who, after a strategy session, they said, "What? I see the work that is ready to be done, but I don't think I'm ready. So let me go back, to my employment gigs." And they did. For some, but mostly, I've found that strategy has worked when there is accountability. Yeah. People are always, there's a lot of distraction in today's world. So I found that when I pick my phone and call an entrepreneur I've worked with and reminded them, we want to do this by this month, where can we see the progress? They tend to, even the next month, they're the ones who are going to call and say, I did this, did you see, blah, 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 blah. They'll even call back being happy. But if no one is checking, it almost seems like we tend to lag behind, but that is just one of the reasons. So maybe in execution, you might need to find accountability. And then the second reason, particularly for entrepreneurs, everything rests on the founder. Yeah. So it's always a question of, do you not want your team to be involved? Is it that we are not trusting our teams? Yeah, because if everything rests on you, all decisions rest on you, then you're bound to drop, some balls. Yeah, you might take 1 year to do one very simple thing, because now you're the one who is firefighting, you're the one who is leading the strategy, you're the one who's perhaps pushing for clients to come. So in execution, you want to also involve, if you're working with people, you might want to involve the team that is there. And if you're working alone, just focus on what is the most important part of the strategy and erase the rest first of all, and say, maybe this I'll do in the second year or the third year, but for just 1 year, and focus on one thing so that I'm able to execute efficiently. Yeah.
Thank you, Lois. Now, let me ask you a question. Herbert Zake calls you to Kampala to assist him to create key differentiating factors. Richard in Nairobi also calls you to come and develop key differentiating factors. How will you make sure that these two training programs are not replications or they are not the same? How should I generate key differentiating factors?
So the thing with key differentiating factors, I think in a lot of times it's people complicate it. Sometimes it, like I mentioned, it could be even in the simplest thing. Yeah, it could be yes in the product or service, but it could just be in your processes. Yeah, that a client then feels that, "Ay, and those guys were very efficient," or those guys really, contact us at this point and they operate very nicely, they treated me very nicely as a client. Yeah, it could be maybe even in that, or perhaps it could be in the product or the service, and you might be offering similar services or similar products, but how you approach the market with the products or the services is what is different. So you might be offering the same thing, but it's a bit on more on creativity. What I like to say is, especially for a business that has been there a while, find what has made you work up until the point where you are. What has made you succeed up to the point where you are? So, whatever reason that is, we first want to hold on to it and find ways to multiply that. Maybe you were doing it, but in a very simple way, but now we want to, can we times five what made the first thing work? Yeah. So, for these businesses that you mentioned, Richie, I'd want to just understand what is their markets, how are they, what are the products or what are the services that are being provided, how are people providing it, and most importantly, how are they, how are they doing it? Yeah, that way we are able to just go further into just understanding. And you remember, you cannot understand your KDF if you don't understand your why and if you don't understand your target market. Because what you might think is your differentiating factor is useless to another person. Yeah, they don't term that as value. But if you understand your target market, then you get to understand this is what value is to them, and now this is how I differentiate myself in the market. And for sure there are contacts on the screen, both my email and my phone number, so you can definitely call me, reach out, and we can have a conversation on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Lois. We live in a very fluid world, very dynamic. At what point in time should you review your strategy? Is it periodically or it is necessitated by some other variables?
So you realize you might not want to. It's the actions of the strategy that you need to review. If you got the first step right, the understanding, where in the playing field I want to play and how I want to win. If you have that right, then you might not need to review as often as possible. What you need to review is the nitty gritties of the these small things, in terms of the differentiating factor, in terms of the best approach to reach the client, how to acquire the client. So those are the things that are going to change, not necessarily the overall or the high level strategy. Yeah, that's why you can even see people have strategies for 10 years, but it doesn't mean that in the 10 years or in the 5 years nothing is changing. Definitely things are changing, but it is the actualization of the strategy that changes. If you have understood very well where you're playing and how you're going to win in that space, you might not need to want to change the strategy. It's just the actions of it. Yeah. But if you haven't, then you'll keep changing a lot of times, which is also not quite healthy. But other than that, when it comes to the actions, you need to review your actions, every other time, to be honest. as you said, the world is very fluid. So you want to review whatever I did yesterday. Is there a better way to do it today? Yeah, and will there be a better way to do it in 1 year? Yeah, will it be the same, or is there anything I need to improve? Yeah. So yeah, I think that's how I could answer that based on my
There's a
experience.
question here by Nisola. I don't know if I understand it. Please expound on the key main risk factor and how to handle that strategically. I don't know if
Please say that again.
please expound on the key main risk factor and how to handle that strategically. I can't be able to understand what he's saying. Probably the risk factors involved in coming up with this. Is it man or main? Key main risk factor.
Key main.
You have to rewrite that. You have to rewrite that again so that we can be able to understand. Now, Lois, there are so many tools that are using in when you want to craft and execute strategy. We have SWOT analysis, we have balanced scorecard, we have the OKRs, we have strategy maps, we have PESTIL. How do you choose the best tool? Do they bring the same?
All that you have mentioned, those are tools. Yeah, those are tools to guide your strategy development. If you just do a SWOT, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a strategy. What a SWOT does, for example, it will help you understand where you are in business. Yeah, in the sense of, yes, these are our strengths, so we need to focus on this, but that isn't necessarily what a strategy is. If you can remember what the definition of strategy. A PESTEL is also a tool which is great because it helps you analyze your environment. Yeah. OKRs, that is also a tool for a different thing. It comes in to help at the execution, the reviews of your strategy. It's just keeping you on track. It's sort of like a metrics checker. But if you're going by our definition of what strategy is, then these are important tools, but they won't necessarily help you have a winning strategy. Remember, Richie, we are talking about a winning strategy. It's a winning strategy. It's not just a plan for 2025, but this is our plan. No, it's an actual winning strategy. So those are tools to support, not to develop strategy.
Do small businesses need a strategy?
All businesses need strategy. All businesses need strategy. For the small businesses, I don't know what your definition of small is, but let's call them startups. Yeah, mostly for startups, it's the kind of strategy they need is foundational. You see, just answering your market, testing your market, that is the kind of strategy that you need. There are different things, in as much as maybe we are talking about your existence. Strategy focuses on different things. A startup will focus on maybe disrupting a market, entering a market, but an existing business, something that has existed for quite a long time, might be focused on a legacy strategy. Yeah. So those are two different strategies. How we handle one that is focused on legacy and one that is focused on disrupting. Those are two different strategies. So our younger businesses will mostly want to focus on how to maybe disrupt a market, how to introduce new products, who even cares, just understanding the market kind of strategy. Yeah. Which
Thank you,
is
Lois.
the simplest, but almost it's a simpler. It seems like simple. It seems like it's simple, but it's also not that simple. Yeah.
Thank you, Lois. I'm sure you've gone to organizations to train, and on the side, the people you are training, they tell you, oh, you know what? the person who is interfering with the strategy is the leadership. What is the role of leadership? How can you be able to tell this? You're the one who is interfering with the strategy. I'm sure you've encountered moments like those ones. You have been told that the person who is really interfering with the strategy is the leadership. How do you handle this as a person who is not in the leadership position?
So normally in our sessions, we have the one-on-ones, yeah, where we get to hear what every person who is related to the business needs to say. So we get to hear this a lot from the team, where they say, hey, the management is just, it's they're not doing, they're holding us back rather. So, two things. So, number one, we will try to have conversations with leadership on the different matters, because sometimes what I've seen is there's a worry that they have that is forcing them to react the way they are reacting. So, if we are able to pinpoint what it is that is causing the management to behave as such, then normally we are able to solve the problem. Because sometimes you find, especially if it's the owner or a top level manager, they're just worried about the security of the business or the security of the job, and that gives them jitters. So if you are able to identify what it is that they can that can help curb this, then it is a better situation. It is always almost better. The second thing is, unfortunately, in some instances, we are not able to do that because, um, that is just how they are, and they have refused to change. And, it just gets difficult, and it's just impossible at that point unless the person in charge is aware of their role in it. If we are not able to bring them to that awareness, unfortunately, we are also not able to help. Yeah, but 100% that is very common, and especially also, can I also mention change management? Yeah, sometimes it's also a change management issue. Questions that we also ask ourselves is the leadership, is this challenge a technical one, or is it just personal, or they just refused to change, yeah, or is it something to do with change management? And then now we can bring in the right experts for that, and yeah, we can continue supporting.
There is a question by Morage Geshuki. How can a manager in a sales field apply a strategy effectively?
In a sales field, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So, in fact, sales is the most crucial part when it comes to a strategy. Remember that part of the presentation where we said what is the best way to acquire clients? And we said if a business has all these beautiful things in a strategy, but they don't have the place how to acquire clients very well, if they have not grasped that, then we said everything will be true but useless. Yeah. So if anything, part of the strategy, a salesperson is almost always one of the key people in the execution of strategy. Because when it comes to execution, we ask ourselves, what resources do we need, both financial, human resource, and all that. And a salesperson or a business development person becomes the most or the critical part of the strategy, because now once you have understood what area you guys are playing in, and you have understood you are the guys who need to fully understand the target market, who need to fully understand the constraints, who need to fully understand the alternatives that people have. So basically, in terms of client facing, you are the executors. In as much as perhaps leadership, marketing have a part to play, you are very key when it comes to conversion. So if anybody else, or if you have a strategy and you were thinking of wanting to train your people on it, or you just start with the sales team actually. Yeah, because they're the ones who are client facing.
Naisola has clarified in saying that the key man risk factor you can expound on it, and how do you handle it when it becomes a serious risk?
The key, sorry, Richard, please repeat.
Key man risk factor. I think he has picked it from one of your slides.
Okay, key main risk factor.
Oh, is
Or
it
is it?
main or man? You can go back to your slides and check if there is the main
Key,
or man.
key differentiating factor, is it? Yeah,
I am
because
unable to
that's,
really know. Mm.
yeah, I think it's key differentiating factor. Mhm.
Richard, maybe he can unmute and ask the question
Yeah.
directly.
Probably,
Yeah.
Naisola, you can
Nisola,
come and yes, and tell us what you're saying. I think probably what he means is the founder syndrome, the founder syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what he means by
Hi, good
key.
evening. Yes, let me just explain. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, Lois. It is the key man risk factor that has to do with the founder syndrome, like Richie is saying. So you alluded to that, and so I was left at that point where I was wondering, when it comes to strategy, how do you address this? Because it becomes a major issue with solopreneurs or with businesses that are run and the CEO is the founder, the dream rests on them, there's no succession plan and things like that. So I was wondering whether you could expound on it.
Okay, all right. So, actually, now that you've mentioned this, something that I do is the hands-on support with this. The thing with the founders syndrome, it's not one that you can switch off, unfortunately. Yeah. You'll always worry about perhaps a client, or perhaps a proposal, or perhaps will that person do, the job as just as good as I would. Yeah. But the main thing with this, or rather what has worked on my side so far, is the coaching bit. If you are alone in it, remember, you will always find it so difficult to move to another person. So the key thing is find yourself someone who can walk the journey with you. Hata kama si kila siku, but they are always, they're your listening partner or something, call it like that, because a lot of the times you'll find the founder is does not have someone rather to who they can speak on the progressive things on business. But if you have a coach who you can continuously have these conversations with, and the kind of conversations I'm talking about actually is on, number one, the reasons that that are very concerning to you, and then number two, what are some of the things that you can begin to let go? What will allow you to let go of these things? And sometimes you find slowly by slowly you're able to let go of a few things, and because you have already discussed controls, yeah, and that gives you peace of mind. Controls give you, allow you to just take a step back to just allow the business to grow. One of the key things with that is if a founder does not allow for that process to happen, no matter how difficult it is, unfortunately it's the business that suffers because it never grows beyond a certain point. Yeah. And it has been something that a lot of businesses in our country have experienced, where you see the business has really grown, but the founder is still very heavily present. And the moment they step back a little, the entire business crumbles. So that you have to remind yourself as a founder that there's a bigger vision for this. You need to have conversations with someone, understand what are the points you can start letting go, what are the controls you can start keeping, what are the reasons that are giving you, what are your fears in letting go of some of these parts of the business. And solutions could be in people, solutions could be in technology. Yeah, and mostly it's people and technology. There is where the solutions lie. Yeah, I hope I have answered your question.
All right, Lois, thank you very much. There's a word that you mentioned. It is good to have a vision, all right, so that you can be able to transform your business into a powerhouse. But then there is the Lulu that you mentioned. How do you know that you're having the right vision and not delusions of grandeur that you have a business? How do you make a difference that it's not a delusion, it is a business that you're running?
Two things: you need to ask the right questions and you need to have the right answers, not assumptions. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the first place, are you even asking the right questions? You just need to ask the right questions on regarding every place you are, every step that we have spoken about. Ask the right questions, and if you can do that, that is why you could have the support of perhaps a fellow business person, a consultant. Yeah, mostly that. Those that I've seen that are using friends and family, sometimes it's been a bit ish. They're not able to separate that, or they're not, most of the time, they're not able to take that seriously. Yeah. So if you might want to speak to a fellow business person or a consultant so that are we asking the right questions? Are we on the right track? Is this the real answer? Are we just assuming that people can't afford this? Are we assuming that this product will fit in the market? So what kind of questions are you asking? And I've also seen a question from someone with a cyber, and I think they said after paying all their expenses, they remain with nothing. What could you be doing wrong? The first place I would send you, Victor, is to check on does your cyber, what value is it offering? What value is your cyber offering? Is it perhaps whatever you're offering, whatever you term as the value offering in your cyber, someone can already get it at their home, right? So what is the reason? Why should they come at your location? It could be, yeah, mostly it's on your services and the value attached to your services. And then if that is right, then your client acquisition is what you need to build up. Your client acquisition plan, then you need to build that. Perhaps you're assuming people are saying this is a cyber cafe, come and they'll enter. It's not that obvious. Actually, remember, just if I could give this example, when I was starting out, when I was starting out in the consulting journey, I got an opportunity to work with the guys launching Equity Afya Healthcare Services. I believe perhaps we have seen them around. And Equity Afya, because it was attached to Equity Bank, or rather, it was franchised to students, medical students who had passed, through Equity, assumed that once we set up the buildings, because the name Equity is there and Equity is very well known, clients will be come in and just enter in and get in these services, and the health center would be perfect. Hope we could go one day, there's only one client. Or sometimes you just find even zero clients, and you're open and you're paying people and all that. So that's why I am so heavy on assumptions, because that was an assumption. Because of the brand, people are just going to come. So Victor, the same to you. Just because you've written a cyber cafe, don't assume that people will just automatically come in. Work on your client acquisition. Over to you, Richie.
Thank you very much, Lois. There is a question by Grace of Ogola, daughter of Ogola. She's saying there are occasions where you think that your KDFs are working, but when you go to the clients tell you different things. So should you keep to what the clients are saying, or should you keep to your KDFs?
So help me understand this. So the client says the KPIs are working.
Now, the organization, from their standpoint, are seeing the KDFs are working, the key differentiators are working. But when you go to the client, they are saying totally different things. How do you harmonize? How do you resolve this conflict where the organization thinks the key differentiators are working, but when you go to the client, the pressure is totally different. So which one should you follow? What the customers are saying or what the key differentiators are saying?
For HRs in such a situation, I've been in such a situation before, and the thing is, if we are just speaking, it might seem like stories, yeah. But if you can lay out fact and figures to support, your analysis, then that can help to whichever party it is, yeah. So you might want to just find out how is this affecting them. People listen to what they feel like will quite affect the business. So if you can draw up something, facts and figures to support that, that could help. And especially now that she's mentioned she's HR, I think even working with my entrepreneurs, HRs, what maybe if they are in this building, in this session, understanding how to work with SMEs. I have had a challenge with that, with them not understanding. You have to understand where the business is going for you to be able to help even on board, or to bring the right person, or there's a way that SMEs work. And as a HR, you have to connect to the business for you to get through to the SMEs. If you're not speaking their language, they might not even listen to you. They might even task or assume whatever you're doing is just admin task, and put it as such. But HR has quite a huge role to play in strategy. Yeah. Some of these things that we're talking about, people and all that, HR plays a key role. So you want to also understand how the business is working. Ask yourself, ask the business even for a strategy for you to just get to understand where they are going. Yeah, and that can inform a few things. So fact, figures, and understanding their strategy as well will help you in getting through.
Thank you, Lois. Here is a curveball. And the curveball is this. There is a person I'm consulting for and says, working with a spouse is a very difficult thing. And today I was at Sarit Center, and the person who was giving a talk proudly said that do not venture into starting a business with your partner. How difficult is it to start a business with your partner?
Interestingly enough, a lot of these businesses are family businesses, yeah. So I wouldn't say don't open a business with your partner or open one. That's solely your decisions, yeah. But the experiences I've had is just differentiating your personal lives and the business life is it's, it's normally very hard. I think I've just found 1, 2, 3 clients who are able to fully get there. Yeah. But what helped those clients specifically are policies around the business, policies that guide the business, processes that guide the business, where they are very strict even with themselves that we are accountable to make this process. You cannot ask other people to use processes or policies and then you yourself you're breaking them. So the instances where this becomes harder is there are no processes, there are no controls, there are no, there's nothing. We're just moving. Yeah. So the couples need to come together and discuss what is the direction of this business, what is it that you're doing, discuss the nitty-gritties, and now keep accountability. Yeah. But I wouldn't say start the business or it won't be successful if you start with your partner, or it will be successful. Really, it just goes back to the discipline of the founders. Yeah.
As you prepare for your parting shot, let me read something by Jared Njogona. To win strategy using staff portfolios, focus on strategically showcasing skills and experience relevant to the job or project, highlighting not just outcomes, but also the process and mindset behind them. This involves creating a portfolio that is both professional and personalized, demonstrating adaptability and continuous learning, and aligning with the needs and values of the target team or organization. What is your parting shot, Lois?
Okay. My parting shot would be whatever you create, even in all the steps that we have listed today, pass them through someone, yeah. Evaluate, and don't take it as simple as it may look like. Understanding your niche, that seems like a very simple sentence, yeah. So give them the depth, answer every step with the depth that it deserves, and if possible, pass it through someone. I had shared my number. Call, we can get into a virtual call, 20-minute call, share whatever it is that you have created, and just get feedback on it before you can proceed. And people have very, very good ideas out here, and of course it has to be someone who's wanting the business to grow, to support, to do better. So it's not just anyone, but pass your strategy through other people as well, to just listen to their views. Yeah. No man is an
Thank you
island.
very much, Lois, for finding time to come and give us reminders and nuggets and perspectives. I am sure some of us didn't know the existence of KDFs. I can see Massimo really saying that it's what stands out for them. Even me, I have seen so many, but I have not encountered key differentiating factors. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you too for having me. It's been a lovely evening.
Thank you so much. Jacinta, you can share the group link so that people will continue with the conversation that we normally have every Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. God bless. See you next Tuesday. Keep it, get it right, always on Tuesdays. Enjoy your dinner.